Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting for July. Before we start, I'd just like to invite Deputy Mayor Wards to open us up with karakia, please.
Morena, Your Worship, councillors. I'll just open us with a karakia. He honore, he karoria, mga rongo ki te whenua. Whakaro, pai ki ngā tangata katoa. Aki ake, amene. Te atua, te peringa, toku oranga, toku oranga.
Kia ora. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. What a lovely way to start our meeting. Thank you very much. First off, we move to apologies. I would just like to put an apology in for Councillor Erina and Councillor Kashan, who are away at a conference on council business but are attending this morning for the local government reform section. So it'll be an apology for early departure. Could I have someone second that for me, please? Councillor Corlett. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried, and thank you both very, very much for jumping out and joining us for this important paper that we'll be coming to shortly. Next item on the agenda is a leave of absence request. That's for Councillor Steve Wallace from the 3rd of August to the 12th of August. Putting in a leave of absence request means that there will not be a requirement for apologies to be put at meetings. They will automatically be put in for our governance team. So I'm also happy to move that leave of absence, and it's seconded by Councillor Naylor. Is there any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. I haven't been notified of anyone for public forum. So now we move to item 6, which is notifications of items not on the agenda. Are there any items? Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just think it's appropriate at this stage that we recognise the passing of the Mayor of Taupo, the previous. Just to put you in the picture, David John Travis was a very prominent, with their family, and still is a very prominent member of our town. They had a family business here. David has been involved in local government for 24 years. So could we stand for a minute and show respect, please?
Absolutely. I was looking at doing that in Merrill Matters, but we will do that now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wallace. I'll just make a couple of quick comments on that. David was absolutely a champion for Taupo over many, many years in different roles, including as a councillor, deputy mayor and mayor. Although, and I was privileged to have met him a number of times, although he was a champion for Taupo, it was very, very clear that he was a Dannevirke boy, and he made sure that people were well aware of that connection. So very, very fitting for you to mention that, and thank you. And we sadly acknowledge his passing as a council. So thank you, Councillor Wallace. We are now moving to item 7, which is declarations of conflicts of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest for today's meeting? There appears to be none. I am now just going to shuffle the agenda slightly because we do have the councillors attending for one section. So we're now going to be moving to our local government reform paper, which is, let me just find the page, on page 53 of your items. This is in the name of the Chief Executive, and I would also like to welcome up Jess and Sandy to the table for any questions. So I'll hand over to the Chief Executive.
Cool. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, yes, so you'll remember that on June the 10th, there was a council paper where you made a series of decisions in regards to the local government reform, in particular the Head Start process. So those decisions resulted in a decision around further investigation around option 2, which was go south, and option 4 to go west. And authorise the Mayor and Chief Executive to continue discussions, and also note option 6, which was to fight for a better option, which strongly came through from our community. So conversations have continued with councils, and with it becoming clear that Head Start is not a reasonable option for Tararua, and you'll see this in the paper. And of course this supports the community sentiment that came through our engagement. As part of our discussions with councils in the Manawatu and Whanganui region, a draft letter to the Minister and MOU has been produced, and they are included as part of the paper. And if they're endorsed, they would provide a framework for working with like-minded councils through the backstop process. And we'll take questions.
Are there any questions on the paper? Councillor Naylor.
Just on the recommendation 11.5, I was a little bit confused about, this is where we authorise the Mayor and Chief Executive to communicate Council's position, and it was just the wording I was struggling a little bit at the end. As a proposed partner in any Head Start process, proposal, or other local government reform proposal that has not been endorsed by council, the not being endorsed by council, it was just a little bit confusing for me, and perhaps if we could just get it.
We'll let the Chief Executive
reword that. So we're endorsing you to do the work, but not endorsing you to take action.
Councillor Naylor, I'll get the Chief Executive to answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the intent of that statement is really around reaction from council should we be included in a Head Start proposal that we are not aware of, and positioning in terms of us making it clear to the Minister that we are not supportive of that. It's an echo of wording that is being used in the Manawatu paper, and will probably be included, or some variation of, in other papers. So that's why that's included there.
Does that clarify?
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah, it was just a little bit ambiguous in my brain, but I think you've clarified it for me, so that's cool. Yeah.
Just from, and this was something, Councillor Naylor, I was very keen to have in the paper, because the Head Start criteria does allow councils to effectively name unwilling partners. The Minister for Local Government had made clear at Zone 3 that he would take a dim view to that happening without there being discussion. So we want to be crystal clear in our recommendation that if that does happen, which I think is unlikely, that we are able to strongly express and convey that view.
And just secondary to that, then I assume that we aren't aware of anyone that's potentially naming us in a Head Start program.
Through you, Chair, no, we're not aware of anyone naming us in a Head Start application at this time.
Are there any further questions on the paper? Councillor Naylor, then I'll go Councillor Wallace, then Councillor Naylor.
So, from all the literature and everything that's out there, the definition of a backstop, I don't think there is a backstop.
Through you, Chair. So backstop is identified in the policy document that was produced. There's not a lot of detail around backstop, and the government were very clear in the policy document that that would be developed in the second quarter of 2027. There was some initial conversation or statements around that came from ministers, which indicated a carrot and stick approach. I think that's been quite widely canvassed. However, there's definitely been a softening of language in that space over the last month or so, and in particular from the Minister of Local Government, Minister Watts, who's been very clear on a number of occasions, both in writing and at meetings like the Zone 3 meeting, that it will be more akin to the previous CTB model that was floated, and a collaborative, or the intention for it to be a collaborative process with councils. But more detail than that we don't have, and as indicated, that will come in the second quarter of 2027.
Councillor Naylor.
This was way down in the Morrison Law Report, and so on page 137 of our report, and I noted that in the last paragraph on that page, it said Horizon's unitary council could cost, this was to do with the costs of running a unitary council, Horizon's unitary costs could be between 14% and 1% higher, lower and 1% higher than the combined cost of the 6 councils plus Horizon's operating costs. I was wondering, there were 7 councils plus Horizons to my count. Did they miss a council there, and that's why the costs were that low? Or I know we can't answer that, but because it's in the Morrison Law Report. But it just highlighted to me there was something missing there, and I don't know if there's anyone who's dealing with Morrison Law who could. Yeah.
Through you, Chair. So the table above does have the 7 councils. So in terms of that particular wording there, that may just be an error in the writing, but their calculations are definitely based around all the councils in the Horizons area.
Great. Any further questions on the paper? Deputy Mayor Watts.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question in the update section. There were a couple of councils missing at this stage, Palmerston North, Rangitikei. If, as it's stated there, that everyone would have made up their mind by the 5th of August, it's going to be a very busy week. And I guess it goes to the question that Councillor Naylor had regarding the wording of that recommendation. Would there be an intent of the Chief Executive and Mayor during the next week, if we had to react to any of those updates, that that would be obviously communicated to a wider forum? Thank you.
And I thank you, Deputy Mayor, and I may answer that because that perhaps has a slightly more political element to it, which is helpful with that recommendation. So the update that officers have provided can only update of public statements and formal council papers. So we already see within there that some different views are emerging. There is a potential within the region for some councils, and probably a minority, to resolve to pursue a Head Start agreement. So there is that potential, which would be on a limited regional basis. And I don't want to speak for other councils because they haven't made their formal decision, but I have seen some indications that that could happen. I have expressed our view quite strongly, as have a number of other mayors, that as a district we make our decisions. So Tararua makes decisions for Tararua, and we have had clear assurances that there is absolutely no intention to name unwilling partners. The policy does allow it, however, so if that was to eventuate, that would be taken very, very seriously if our wishes were in any way attempted to be overridden. Any further questions? Councillor Wallace.
What was the cost of the Morrison Low advisory report to? Because this is ratepayers' money and this has all been put on us by government.
Through you, Chair, off the top of my head, I can't remember the total figure. So it was divided between all the councils in the Horizons area. We can get that. I'll bring it back to you, but I wouldn't want to make up a figure here on the spot. So we'll make sure that that's correct in the record.
And thank you for the question. I have requested when this process started with similar sentiment to yours that we do keep a tally of all costs that have come in that we've been required to meet. We have been very careful not to spend money unnecessarily, but there is no issue at all with that amount being public as far as I'm concerned. So we will certainly get that. Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Councillor Amboy.
Good morning. Thank you, Ms. Scott. I guess I've just got a question on the timeframes and on how we are going to continue to engage with our community under the backstop process. I guess I'm just quite conscious of how, if we do this and the space between 2027 and all the rules, etc., how are we going to actually just keep them in the loop? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Amboy. Yeah, so to agree, obviously we're working that out, but absolutely we need to continue to engage with our community. So if Council decides today to follow the recommendations in the paper, and if we adopt the MOU, that sets out a bit of a process in terms of a governance layer, so at the elected members as well as then chief executives and an operating layer in terms of working through over the next 6 months, potential options to come to a point in March where councils would have an opportunity to decide whether they wanted to continue to work together around particular models. Through that, absolutely, we would be engaging with our community and very similar to the town hall meetings that we already had, getting their feel for what the right options are for Tararua. So we'll keep that front and centre.
Thank you, Corin. Any further? Councillor Wallace.
I just need it clear in my head. 1.3 of the recommendation, it says not to submit. We are going to submit something, but it's just, that seems like final.
Through you, Chair. So you are correct. So there is a definite decision point here, right? So the Head Start process requires a submission for a Head Start by the 9th of August. So this resolution, if Council adopts it, says that we will not put in a Head Start application. our intention is that we will send a letter to the Minister saying that, so not through DIA and not through the official Head Start process, to say we are not submitting a Head Start. This is why, but our intention is to engage actively with reform, with other like-minded councils to work on a model or models which we believe provide a better way of reforming local government and delivering both benefit for our communities and wider New Zealand through that reform process.
Any further questions? Councillor Naylor.
Just on the memorandum of understanding, so is that open for discussion now, or do you want as part of this?
Through your chair, if you've got questions about it, absolutely, and obviously you've got your discussion point as well, and it's a draft. So if council have views or wish to seek changes to that, then there is an opportunity.
Yeah, so just on that, the scope of collaboration on page 166 of our report, I noticed that there is no comment about adhering to the LGA Act. And no sort of comment about, adhering to the sort of, requirements of that Act. And the other comment that I had, which I would like to some thought put into, is about the future requirements. So the Memorandum of Understanding outlines how we would deal with the current things that we have to deal with as a council, but we don't know what's coming down the future. And so just something open that would say, or something to the fact that as future requirements evolve, our memorandum of understanding is we would work collaboratively together to discuss those sorts of things. I'd like to see something focused on the future in there. But apart from that, I really liked it. So perhaps, I had another note in here, perhaps identifying the core services that we would expect it to deliver under the memorandum of understanding. And then the last comment on that was, what about anybody outside the Horizons regions like Capital Coast District Council who may want to join at some stage in the future, whether there would be a comment that we could allow others to join if they so wished or we thought it was strategically advantageous for us. So that's my little ramble on that one.
Through you, Chair. So we can absolutely take that back. The intent of the MOU is that it is it's open-ended and flexible, non-binding, and it absolutely would enable the people who, or the organisations that have signed up to this, to add others in. It's very purposely been crafted so it allows organisations, councils to have conversations outside of the MOU as well. So to create the maximum flexibility for councils to say, yes, we are happy with the structure which signifies to government that we are organised and that we will be working collaboratively, but not to bind councils in any way outside of that.
Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Mayor Scott and Corin. I guess the last bullet point in the first top part of the page on page 166 covers that, in that participation in this MOU does not prevent any council from exploring local, sub-regional or cross-boundary options where those are relevant to its community. And that probably covers that, yeah.
No, thank you, Councillor Johns. And I mean, look, it is a draft, and if we find that it needs some amendments, then that can happen. I think discussing each legislative requirement, it would be a 1,000-page document. I think we always operate under the principle that we act lawfully and that we don't act outside of legislation, because otherwise any decision making that comes from that would be deemed to be unsafe or unlawful. It is purposely designed as is a draft that allows us to work together and gives us a framework to work together, should we wish to do so. But every council would have the ability at any point to have different discussions, or to work outside it, or to withdraw from it. So there's no binding nature to it. One of the advantages of an MOU is that it gives a demonstration to government that we are not saying we're just putting our head in the sand and we're not up for a discussion. It's saying that we're actually willing to work together. Here's our proposed framework of how we're going to do it, and here are the signatories of the councils that wish to do so. It adds more weight and more power to our message, and that we're not just seen as a council that says, no, we don't want to do anything, because that would probably not have the desired result of this council. Councillor Wallace, did you have a comment?
Yeah, this is all to do with the MOU. So the MOU in its current form gives an impression that 8 councils, one of them being a regional council, the Horizons Council, in the Horizons region, have only given limited thought to one region-wide option. The MOU also indicates that the council intends to commence work on phase 1 of the 8-phase plan prior to general central government elections. This suggests that a wait-and-see approach is being taken, with a view that in the event of a change of government, that the requirements may change. The MOU features 3 working group parties, and there is an old saying, when in doubt, form a committee. This all indicates that the current new reports that in Manawatu, Wanganui, not everyone is rushing down the aisle, which appears to be pretty close to the mark, right?
Are we still on questions?
No, you see comments, that's why I was carrying on.
Oh, no, sorry, I haven't moved to comments yet, but you carry on. No further questions? Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, I thought we were in comments. Right. Okay, so if the government is even half serious about implementing its stated backstop option, this proposal in the MOU could well be the first candidate to test their resolve. Whilst phase 3 in this MOU states, and whether any local or sub-regional or cross-boundary options need to be retained for further testing, there is no indication any serious thought or work has been put into any such alternatives. The Morris Lowe advisory document refers to a number of concerning issues, including local representatives, loss of identity, local decision-making, harmonising service levels, complex implementation and time-consuming, staff efficiency, local staff presence and staff costs, iwi relationships, different stages of development, larger councils, more complex, requiring more comprehensive internal processes and increasing in administering positions. Overall assessment scale would result in complexity, extreme urban-rural split, implementation high risk, and lack of consensus. The report also identifies significant and concerning differences that need serious consideration, i.e. Wanganui, distinct self-contained community with a limited integration into its rest of the region, retains a strong local identity and service base. Also, the iwi relationship with the Wanganui River Treaty Claim settlement, including Te Awa to Tapua. Do I get that right? Right. There needs to be sufficient, reliable, measurable cost saving and efficiency gains to justify the change. Have all the options been considered, evaluated, i.e. dividing the region based on distinct river catchments? I think the two main questions here at this stage seem to be, with the MOU stating that no work seems planned beyond phase 1 until the central government elections, does this potentially trigger a backstop process? And 2, with the focus to date appearing to be based solely on the region-wide entity, what work has been done on either or perhaps more logical options? That's just questions and my feelings about the MOU. I think it's the work, by the way, that's been done. I compliment the people that have done the work. We've been served a hospital pass, whatever we want, but we want the best, and that's what we're all focusing on. So I don't know.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Wallace. I'm going to make a bit of a statement on my views of this process and the paper. Just quickly, and I will cover this in some of my comments, absolutely the MOU is a tool to be using within the backstop process. If we do not submit by the 9th of August in a Head Start application, and there certainly, that I have seen, has not been any will right throughout the Horizons region to do that. So it's not possible to do that as a Horizons regional setup. Then that will automatically become backstop as per government policy. So important to note that. But I would like to make a few comments because this is an important decision that we are making today. And it's a decision that follows a significant amount of unexpected work for our council. I support the officer recommendations that we do not submit a Head Start proposal, while making it absolutely clear to the Minister that we remain committed to working constructively throughout the next phase of reform. Our community has been very clear throughout this process. They have told us to fight for a better option. They support change, but they don't believe that simply making councils bigger will magically solve the challenges facing local government. The problem with Head Start is it only allows one conversation. It asks who should amalgamate with whom. It doesn't ask whether amalgamation is actually the best answer. And by giving council such a short time frame, government has created exactly the behaviour you would expect. Across the country, councils have been rushing to find potential partners before the music stops. It became a game of musical chairs where the prize wasn't necessarily the best outcome for your community, but simply to avoid being left standing before decisions were made for them. This is not how good reform happens. When everyone is scrambling to ask who they might merge with, there is little time to ask the more fundamental question: what is the best model of local government? And those two things are not the same question. The approach has been, in some ways, throwing cards in the air to see where they land with the hope that a better system will emerge. But that's just fanciful to think that somehow cards will land automatically in a structurally sound way. Participating in Head Start, in my opinion, carries significant risk. There is no evidence that simply bolting existing councils together automatically creates a better system of local government. It might create larger organisations, but bigger isn't necessarily better. If the underlying structural problems remain, all we've really done is build a bigger bureaucracy that's harder to change and further removed from the communities it serves. And frankly, we should be aiming so much higher than that. Perhaps the greatest irony is that New Zealand is already one of the most centralised democracies in the developed world. Compared with many like-minded countries, we do not have a large number of councils for our population, and remarkably little power actually sits with local government. Central government writes most of the rules and increasingly directs how councils operate. By international standards, we don't have an abundance of local government. We have remarkably little of it. Yet, some have concluded that the answer is just more centralisation. Local voice is not an inconvenience. It is the very thing that gives local government its legitimacy. Decisions are almost always better when they're made as close as possible to the communities that will have to live with the consequences of those decisions. Although some councils will choose to take part in Head Start, I'm pleased with the assurance that we won't be unwillingly dragged into their proposals. That commitment matters. It demonstrates good faith and preserves the relationships we'll need if we're going to work together once this phase is over. But this process has been an enormous distraction. We were making good progress as a council before local government reform dominated our agenda. That's nobody's fault around this table, but it's the reality that we've had to work through. Despite that, I'm proud of the way this council has approached the challenge. We haven't panicked, we haven't acted out of fear, we haven't rushed to produce a proposal simply because the clock was ticking. We've taken time to understand the issues, listen to our community, and consider the small amount of evidence we could gather within that time. In following discussions with the Minister of Local Government, the risk of being in backstop has reduced from when it was first announced, with clarification given that the process will be similar to what they consulted on late last year, and knowing that that was a process we as a council were generally supportive of because we agree that reform is needed. Finally, I would like to acknowledge our Chief Executive, Corin, and all of our staff who have supported us in this process, with a particular thanks to Jess and Sandy for all of their work. It has required an extraordinary amount of work, often behind the scenes, and I sincerely thank everyone who's been involved to support us with that. We aspire to be a can-do council, and one that doesn't just say no to things, but sometimes saying no is the right answer. If these recommendations pass, we will be saying no to a rushed and limited process, but we'll be saying yes to genuine reform. We'll be saying yes to working with our neighbours. We'll be saying yes to protecting the local voice that our communities have told us they value so highly, and we'll be honouring the wishes of our community. Councillor Johns.
Mayor Scott, I totally endorse your summary of the situation, and if that is a means of moving the recommendations, I will gladly second the motion.
Thank you. We'll just make sure that there aren't other comments, but I appreciate that, Councillor Johns. Deputy Mayor Wards.
Thank you, Worship. If I'd been allowed to stand up and clap, I would have. Completely endorse the comments, the appreciation that's been shown to our Chief Executive and the hard work behind producing this report. Few questions given the significance of our decision today, but that points to the comprehensive nature of the work that's gone into preparation of this paper this morning. So huge thanks to everyone. It's not like you didn't have anything else to do, so we well appreciate that. I just want to close my comments by thanking Mayor Scott. I was in the room with Corin and Scott when Minister Bishop sat in front of us and announced what was going to be happening. It was a bit like a bomb had been thrown into the room. And it's probably fair to say that our Mayor Scott was one of the first and few people that stood up that day and said, we can work with this, this is a journey we're going to get on, and Tararua is going to start leading the way. So I want to acknowledge Mayor Scott and thank you for your leadership, for the mana that you've held this district up in, especially when it's come to dealing with media and concerns and queries from our community. And this is a journey. This is one of the first markers on that journey. But I would like, on behalf of all of us here and the whole district, to thank you.
Thank you. It's very humbling. Appreciate that, Deputy Mayor Wards. Councillor Corlett.
Thank you, Mayor Scott, and thank you to the team for the report. It gives us everything that we possibly could to go by. I too agree with everything that you've said. We were shocked when we came in, and this was a change to how we were going to be. I attended all the meetings, listened to everyone who was speaking, have been out there chatting the whole time, and everyone's in the same place. Even our internal opponents who don't necessarily get on with council were behind council, which was a surprise. For me, I fall back to why we stood. I think most of us stood for accountability, transparency, and affordability. This is not that in any way. We really need to make sure that we keep driving to keep our community voice, to keep getting out and making sure that whatever the outcome, that we continue to keep people's voice at the front of face. So again, thank you, Scott, and to the whole team. I've been very impressed and very privileged to be a part of this. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Corlett. Councillor Naylor.
I think back to the time that we were all going through the election campaign, and I think that it was plastered all over the community, the smiling face of our mayor with, we need to do things differently. And I think that inadvertently the government has given us the opportunity to do things differently. So I almost feel like he jerry-rigged this whole process for us. I know. I think this does give us the opportunity to be proactive, though, and to be future-focused, which is something that I was personally campaigning on, and I know others were as well. And it's really good to have heard, the different comments from the different people in the council. I feel, once again, very privileged to be part of a council that is so functional, and, with all the officers and everything else like that, because I hear some horror stories out there. And, and I was talking to another councillor last night who was, on another council I won't name, who was having his little moan as well. I think that we're also going to need to be much more flexible than we ever have been as well going forwards. Outside of the local government reform, we're going to see more change in the next 10 years than we've seen in the last 100 years. And we're going to have to be able to react and respond to that as well. We need to be focusing on what's going to happen in the future. And once again, this reform is giving us the opportunity to put in place the building blocks that will allow us to build upon that as the change happens to us. I also believe and I know that not all my fellow councillors and everybody else agrees with me on this, that we can actually do more by spending less, and that we can actually get to a point where we can be looking at reducing our rates but delivering more for our council. And if we go in with an attitude of how can we do that while we're going through this reform process, then that will help us maintain that affordability and transparency. And we can do that by leveraging technology, which is doing things differently. Back to my starting point. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Naylor. And yeah, it certainly wasn't the things that I was planning on doing differently, but we seize as a team the opportunities that land in our lap. Councillor Kennedy.
Just a comment as well. First, I want to say that I really appreciate how you've remained so calm. Outwardly, I'm not sure what's happening inside, but it's really helped sort of create a level-headed approach. But also, in regards to this whole process, I think what it's really highlighted is the importance of unity and working together. Even if we have differing opinions, we are really trying to be collaborative and work together, which I think is one thing that we can take away.
A very, very good lesson. Councillor Wallace, you've already made your... No, he asked a question and then we moved on. You made the first statement, so I'll allow it as long as it's a short comment.
No. I just congratulate the team and the leadership. Well endorsed. No problems there. I'm happy to second the recommendation when it comes up after Peter.
I'm going to have to not move it now, but that is fine. Councillor Amboy.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Just a really quick comment. I just would like to say a big thank you to you and the team for everything that you've done. For me, 6 months, probably 7 or 8 months ago, since putting my hand up for the election, I didn't think we'd be going through this whole process, and you've really led the way in terms of amalgamation talks within the whole country. And it's clear to see that, especially since going to the Zone 3 meeting, how far our council has come in those conversations. But also, I fully support the recommendation. A lot of my colleagues have already said those comments, but I see this as responsible planning. It allows us to continue to engage with our communities and understand the financial and service implications that come with it, and just to ensure that any future decisions are based on evidence rather than being made under pressure. So again, thank you. So well done. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Amboy. Really appreciate those comments. Are there any comments, Councillor Irina or Kashan, that you would like to make?
I'll just say something quick. Yeah, we're thanking ourselves and all those sorts of things, but I want to thank our community for being so proactive and coming to our hui, and to iwi for coming to the table and giving us really clear direction. Without them, I don't think this decision would be as easy for us as I think it's sounding to be. So thank you to our community. I mean, this is for them. So yeah, that's all I really wanted to add. No, I'm good.
No, excellent, and really, really important. I think you've nailed the part that when decisions feel easy, it means that we've followed a process that works, and so that didn't happen by accident, and it required a lot of behind the scenes work from our team, but our community turned out. And they came and they told us what they wanted and what they thought. And it was actually, that wasn't a universal thing around councils, frankly. Even councils that did have a process similar-ish to ours perhaps didn't get the level of engagement that we had. So I endorse that comment very, very strongly. So thank you very much, Councillor Kashan. That appears to be all of the comments. I would just again like to thank the team because it has been easy to lead a process when we have been a united team and we've been able to have those discussions with our community to see what was needed. I reiterate my thanks to staff and many of them who put in so much work behind the scenes, so much work. I'd also like to thank other mayors around the country, but particularly within our region. And I'd like to give special acknowledgement to the rural mayors who have been having some very constructive discussions and similar challenges that we have. And my hope is that we can leverage that relationship, not just in local government reform, but in other ways. So without further ado, Councillor Johns was first in to talk about the recommendations as written. So to double check, Councillor Johns, would you like to move all of those recommendations?
I would.
Thank you. So moved by Councillor Johns, and Councillor Wallace indicated he would like to second those as written.
Yes, Your Worship.
Perfect. So the motions are now on the table. We have had our discussion, so I'll call the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? The motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you very much for that, councillors. Okay, so we are going to do a bit of a jump back to the beginning and go to page 5, which is our confirmation of minutes. Could I please, first off, is there any questions on the minutes? Appears to be none. Could I have someone move that they're true and accurate? Councillor Corlett, seconded by Councillor Naylor. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. We also have meeting minutes for Positively Woodville, and there was a slight backlog, so we'll take them as a batch. Could I have someone move those minutes? Councillor Naylor, seconded by Councillor Johns. Any discussion on those minutes? Call the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. We now move to page 35, which is the Eketahuna Community Board. I would like to acknowledge the presence in the room of Steve McGee, the chair of the Eketahuna Community Board, and I would like to invite board member or chair Steen to come up if he would like to make any comment on his minutes.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for having me. So I just want to, from our minutes, want to discuss our request to relocate our recycling bins. So a little quick history. We were asked by a resident of Bridge Street, which is where the bins are, a few months ago, upon consultation with other residents of that street, that they don't like it being there. For one was the noise on weekend mornings, but more importantly the health and safety aspect of possible broken glass, which you're just going to get anyway around recycling bins. So the point for anyone that doesn't know is that the recycling bins are right beside the kids' park, playground and swimming pool. So swimming pool particularly means you may have kids running around on bare feet. So we acknowledge that this was probably a sound idea to look at. It's been a few months now. A meeting before last, we requested from the council the costs of moving to where the recycling or where the old dump site is, where the transfer station is the word I was looking for, where that's located, if we could use that. There was a private location mentioned previously, but we have decided that the council-owned land would be a better option. So last meeting we got some results from a report we asked for about costing to go to Margin Street, the council-owned spot. We were a bit disappointed. It was kind of vague, and also was sort of talking about maybe it's quite expensive if you're going to have trucks going to move to, retrieve the recycling bins. Our point was we didn't really believe that completely because trucks already go there to do the transfer stations work. So that's one point. So that's a little bit of the history, but the main point that I would like to make today is that there's such an exciting thing being worked on by Aotearoa Ikirahuna, and that is that they have secured funding for in the $40-something thousand worth, which is just sitting there ready to be used, to build a half-size basketball court where the recycling bins are. So the plans are done. Councillor Corlett might be able to help out with more info as he's on the Aotearoa committee there, but from what I understand, the plans are done, contractors have been talked to, funding has been secured, and now it's come to the community board to ask council again if we can relocate the bins and get on with our half-size basketball court for our youth and possibly not youth in Ikirahuna. So, which is pretty exciting, and I've come here today because I'd really hope to speed the process up because our meetings are bi-monthly now, so we've already had this at 2 meetings, and previous to that we had the letter from their residents nearby, asking it to be the recycling to be moved. So that's why I'm here today. So yeah, any questions?
First off, thank you for coming in. It's I certainly find it helpful to hear that context, and that was a meeting that I wasn't able to attend. We will open up for questions if there are any. I'm mindful that Councillor Corlett now may have a conflict in that space, being part of Ikituna Aotearoa. So just perhaps to signal that if you would like. Yep, that has been signalled. What I would be very, very keen to do is for the chief executive through him to ask his staff to provide an update that will either come through to the infrastructure committee, or depending, we might just have a discussion of who will have to be chairing the next infrastructure meeting, coming through to our council meeting. Unless it is something that can just get resolved, then perhaps we could just have a positive report saying that it has been resolved. But that would be very, very handy for us to understand now that you've brought it to our table, for us to be keeping an eye on that and seeing what's happening and seeing how quickly we can get that done. So really grateful for you taking the time to travel. Is there any questions for Chairperson Steen? Yeah, thank you, Steve. There was no questions? No, so comments.
Yeah, just a comment. I think that, yeah, that's spot on. We should be looking at how we can help the community there. It seems a no-brainer to me, but of course, no-brainers have always got little hooks in them. So yeah, if we can get that expedited, I think that's something that shouldn't cost us too much to get expedited and get an answer to the community board out of cycle. I don't see as being a problem either.
Thank you very much for the comments. Deputy Mayor Watts.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks for coming, Steen. I feel like I've kind of stirred up a hornet's nest here, but I think that what this demonstrates, though, is certainly the willingness of council, or the intended willingness of council, to take a good news story where the funding has already been raised, the kids want the court, it's all ready to go, and an operational decision required by our council team to change the site. It's a bit like Councillor Peter says, it seems a logical process to me, but I think it demonstrates the willingness of a community to work within the constraints that we're required under compliance. But if there's a logical resolution to this. I would hope that it can be speedily resolved in the manner that you've requested. But thanks for coming, Steen. It means a lot. Thank you.
It does. Any other comments for Steen? Thank you very much, Steen. So certainly noted, and the Chief Executive has an action coming out of that, so we're really grateful. Could I please have someone move the receipt of the Eketahuna Community Board minutes? Councillor Corlett, seconded by Councillor Johns. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Steen. Appreciate that. We do not have minutes in this meeting for the Dannevirke Community Board because it's a bi-monthly meeting, but I also would like to acknowledge in the room Chairperson Nicola and Deputy Chair Terry from the Dannevirke Community Board for coming to our meeting. So thank you both very much for your attendance. We now move to page 43, which is the minutes for Explore Pahia Tour. Could I please have someone move receipt of those? Councillor Kennedy, are you happy to move the receipt? And seconded by Councillor Johns. Is there any discussion or questions on these minutes? Appears to be none. I'll take the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. Now, big jump to page 175, which is item 11.2. I'm just going to have a check down the back just to make sure that the team are ready to present. If not, we could have a short break. Councillor Naylor.
The decision action items on page 48.
Apologies. Thank you. Very, very, very good. That was not a deliberate jump. On page 52, thank you very much for that. And it was nicely already flagged for me there. So we have the decision action items. Are there any questions on the decision action items? Councillor Wallace.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. In the progress, it says here community consultation will occur during July 26. Item 2, disposal plans for rationalisation of land and buildings. It's in yellow, so it's in progress. I just wondered what the outcome from that July 26.
So through you, Chair, so that's still going. So that's the two parcels of land which we've been engaging with the community about. So feedback has been coming through, but we haven't completed that process yet.
Well, sorry, I probably should rephrase that. Supplementary, Your Worship. So it's showed interest then? There's been good interest?
Through you, Chair. So we've certainly been pleased with the level of engagement around that and feedback coming to us around both of those parcels of land, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. Any other questions on decision action items? I would just like to thank the team through the Chief Executive. This is starting to get tightened up with more information. It was always going to be a process that took a bit of time, but although I did skip past it, I am finding it very, very useful. Councillor Corlett. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Just a comment. Thank you to the team for putting the Cliff Walk project back on page 52. That was a comment that was made in the community board meeting, so the project still has a little bit of work to meet their expectations, just as a comment there.
Thank you. Councillor Wallace.
Yes, and finally, from me on this is the Carnegie building. In progress. I was hoping that we were, at some stage, we were going to put out another column there at our meeting. We were going to have some dates put in place in the sense of hopeful dates, because this hasn't moved. But there could be good reason for that.
Through you, Chair. So, I mean, the due date should be the, I guess, hopeful date, but also in the progress notes, we should be indicating any variations or things that are impacting that. So that particular one, we are still waiting on the legislation, and that's the key bit. There's been quite a bit of legislation we've been waiting on, and things have been moving up and down. My understanding is September, I think, is the indicative date for that particular one.
No, and thank you for that. And it's as a comment, although I have been on council asking for information on that for some time, but I also am very, very conscious that there could be significant change, and that has been indicated through earthquake-prone buildings. And before we go and spend a whole lot of money or make our final decision, we have to understand the landscape that we're working on, because that is a decision as a team that we will have to make, and at the moment it's not possible to make that decision because we don't have the information that would be required. But no, thank you for raising it, Councillor Wallace. Any further questions? Appears to be none. So that is item 9.1. I've got my list back in front of me. So would someone like to move that the report? Thank you very much, Councillor Wallace. Seconded by Councillor Corlett. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Now, if I've got this right, we are moving to item 11.2, page 175, which is the adoption of the Statement of Expectations for Waiti Waters. This is in the name of Catherine, so if Catherine would like to join us at the table. Not sure if Peter is also coming. Just as we jump into this, and welcome Catherine, becoming a very familiar face at the officer table, but we're very grateful for the work that you put in. This here will not come as much of a surprise to councillors, because it has been through this table a number of times, but this is an important step for us to confirm our approval. So I'll hand over to Catherine or Peter, whoever.
I just, through your worship, want to thank Catherine, because this is a really well-written document. It's progressed massively from even the one that we started with, which was really a reference point from across the country. So I think we've massively advanced what one of these statement of expectations should look like. And I know they've even started working on how that will work in practice at the board level. So pass on to Catherine. Thank you, Catherine.
Morena koutou, lovely to be back with you again today at an important milestone for the transition and the establishment of Waiti Waters. As the Mayor says, this is a familiar subject to you. We've canvassed it a fair bit over the last couple of months, but I'll just make a couple of key points from the paper, just from a process point of view, that I think are important. So the purpose of today is for you to consider and adopt the Statement of Expectations for Waiti Waters. As required under your shareholders agreement, this statement has been developed by the Stakeholders Forum, which is your representative body of council and iwi representatives, and they have been working on that over the last 3 months. The statement has been shared with the board of Waiti Waters and discussed with them at a joint meeting back in June in Pahiatua, and the board has since written back to the councils confirming that they're comfortable with what's in the statement and that they intend to move forward with implementing that. All 4 of the shareholding councils have been briefed on the statement at the end of June. There's only been one change that has been made to it since those briefings and the version that you saw then, and that's just to strengthen the reference up front to amalgamation and the likely need to, or the possible need to, kind of reconsider what's in here in the eventuality that some amalgamation happens within the Wairarapa Tararua region. Since the council's briefing, the Stakeholders Forum have met and approved the statement that you've got in front of you on the 14th of July and have recommended to the shareholding councils that it be adopted And that's where we find ourselves today. Happy to take any questions on it.
Thank you very much for that, Catherine. I'll go Councillor Johns, then Councillor Naylor.
Thanks, Mayor Scott. Well, through you, Mayor Scott, page 180, the first bullet point at the bottom of the page, this is in the statement of expectations, more affordable, brackets, relative to other options. What are the other options? Does that essentially mean the status quo where we're at now?
Correct that when you went through the process of developing your water services delivery plans and consulting with the community last year, you would have considered a number of options, which could have been a ring-fence business unit within your existing council, or setting up your own standalone CCO, or joining into a regional model, and that statement refers to the regional model being the most affordable relative to the other options.
Further, is that going to be quantifiable?
My understanding is it was quantified in your consultation document when you went out to the community last year.
And I just would like to add a comment, and thanks for raising it. This has come about, and I feel confident to say that we have had a real strong input as a council into the statement of expectations, and that there really was making sure that there is a focus and a driver on affordability. And I know that that has been some of your concerns throughout the process. That will not be a perfect measure, but it sends, it asks for the board to commit to keeping an eye on affordability based off other options. And there are a number of affordability measures or statements from within. So no, thank you for that. Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, just on page 184, I think it was, where was it gone? Ah, yes, page 184, the Waiiti Waters will develop a customer charter. Be developed prior to July 2027 or at the earliest opportunity following July 2027. And the earliest opportunity leaves it wide open. That could be July 2037. I was wondering whether there could be a but no later than sort of statement included there, or, you know, so I realise it probably will be developed before July 2027. And I want to also comment that it is a brilliant thing, and this was the only fine little finicky point I could find that stuck out at me. It was just like, is that an open? It just hit me as saying, well, the earliest opportunity following July 2027 could be an open-ended book. So
I might just comment on that, because I've been, along with the Deputy Mayor, part of the discussions with it. Fair enough. However, within the statement of expectations, this is what we as the stakeholder committee will be using to measure the board's performance. So I think it is very clear in there what the intent is, and that's for them to have it done before launch. If that's not possible, we understand that perhaps shortly afterwards. What I'd like to check with you though, Councillor Naylor, is any additions that we make will need to then recycle through 4 council meetings.
No, so
I'd like to understand how important that change is to
this is trivial, and the intent of what you're saying is right, and I'm sure that the stakeholders will make sure that if it was to drag on, that you would be coming down on them and pointing to that it needs to be at the earliest opportunity. So.
No, thank you, and assuming that as a council you choose to keep me as your representative on the stakeholder committee, I don't want to predetermine a future decision, that will be the case. You have my commitment because that is a Tararua addition or request into the statement of expectations to have a customer charter. So I'm very keen to see that being delivered. Deputy Mayor Wards.
Thank you, Your Worship, and perhaps I could reassure Councillor Naylor as the alternate delegate. I've been privileged to be round the table and or in meetings as a number of the aspects of this statement of expectations have been chewed through. As a reassurance, they have got a very comprehensive program of getting their governance policies and processes together, and they've already started in on a list, and I can assure you that this will be a significant part of their work program. They are keen as mustard, and they are very focused on making sure the framework of good governance on our behalf is there. So I just concur with the Mayor that any changes we wish to make here would have to go through some good discussion though. But you know, from my perspective, Councillor Naylor, I have no concerns. This has been chewed over and ratified in lots of different ways, and to be fair, the board of directors have asked some very probing questions around some key elements and principles that we've included in here.
Thank you. Councillor Corlett.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. And yeah, just to sort of agree with all of the comments here, the strength of this document, and thank you to the team for putting it together, is a statement of expectations. It's very good. And I do like on page 182 the working relationships between the stakeholders in the forum and YT Waters. Completely agree with those key points there. That should be, you know, foremost for everyone who sees what this is and how decisions are made. And just to make a comment about some decisions that were made in Wellington Waters, I heard that they were charging based on rateable value of properties. Yeah, in Tararua there was some charges against the value of property. Again, this is very early, but yeah, I don't want to go down any path like that.
No, thank you, Councillor Corlett. Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, just to confirm that I am totally happy with the statement of expectations and would like to move that we recommend the, just to clarify that I am fully supportive.
No, I appreciate that, and you'd like to move the recommendation. Fantastic, Councillor Naylor. Are there any further questions before we do that? Deputy Mayor signalled that she would like to second the motion. I'll put the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for all your work. Team, we are now going to just take a short break. We've already covered a bit now, so if we could be back here, please, at 11 o'clock. So you get an extra 2 minutes for free, 12-minute break. Thank you. Welcome back, team. We now move on to item 11.3, draft NZTA continuous program bid. So welcome up Andrew Desmond to the table.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. So conscious that you've had a few crunchy issues to work through this morning, and conscious that I do ramble on a bit, so I'm going to try and go through this pretty quickly and get your go-to questions. So essentially this is the submission for the draft continuous bid for the NZTA funding for the next NLTP block. This is basically our submission to NZTA, our best foot forward for our roading budget for the 27 to 30 years. We've obviously gone through a few workshops to get to this point and essentially looking to confirm this bid so we can submit by I think it's the 16th of August we have to put it through. So I suppose I'll take the report as read, but any questions that you'd like to go through?
Thanks very much, Andrew. Councillor Naylor.
It's just a curiosity question, actually. On page 199, the bridge assessment information risk, how long do you expect to take to complete that for the remaining life assets? Yeah. Just curiosity, not.
Yeah. So we have started a bit of work in that now. We are going through the list and prioritising the bridge database because there are some very small bridges which are low risk, so we're working towards high risk bridges. But essentially, that's probably a 3-year program to get through the entire lot of them. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Any further questions for Andrew? This is not unfamiliar to us, obviously, because we've looked through it. Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Mayor, Mayor Scott. Andrew, unless I've missed something, is there any intention to continue looking at possible road closures and or establishing roads that will not be maintained, e.g. they will become essentially private roads?
So through you, Mayor Scott, yes, there is. That is going to be part of the network management policy, which we're also developing in the background. We are progressing that steadily, but we're focusing on the development of the AMP first, which is the first submission of the cab off the ranks. Once we get the funding allocation, then we'll have to, based on the potential moderation, then we'll have to make level of service decisions, and that will probably give us better guidance about what that looks like. But yes, that is a directive we've sought at the workshops and progressing.
Excellent. Seems to be no more questions. Could I have someone move the recommendations, please? Councillor Corlett, seconded by Councillor Wallace. Any further discussion or comments? Appears to be none. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate that.
Short, sharp and simple.
We now move to item 11.4, page 205 in your papers. Financial and contractual delegations, and this is in the name of the Chief Executive. Just before the Chief Executive starts with this, I would like to thank the Chief Executive for bringing this to the table. This is certainly something that I was very, very keen for this council to have direct oversight of, to make sure that we had that level of comfort, and I appreciate the work that you've put in to make that happen. So I'll hand over to the Chief Executive.
Thank you, Your Worship. So through you, so just to do a reminder, so there was a discussion at Risk and Assurance around this, and as part of that, the Chief Executive was asked to go away to look further at these, and that was the result of a conversation we had around, to some degree, my uncomfortableness with some of the wording as well. So I have reworked those and looked at those. I've shared those with the independent chair of Risk and Assurance, and he's indicated that he's comfortable with those as well. Just as a matter of process, so council delegates to the CE, and then the CE delegates down to the staff, and that's the flow. Whilst we might not normally bring the full detail like this to a council meeting, I thought that was important, both from a transparency point of view, but also to give confidence to the council that that I'm taking this seriously, that we have a number of checks and balances in place, but also that we've made some alterations, particularly around where there was previously an ability for the chief executive and GMs to go beyond what had been agreed by council through the LTP, and that was something that I felt uncomfortable about. And one of the things that I want to make sure happens at this council is that where we've got any variation in spending that is of any degree significant, that comes back to council and there is visibility around that. And I'll take any questions.
Thank you. I certainly endorse that and thank you for it. Any questions? Councillor Corlett.
Thank you, Mascot. And Corin, thank you to you and your team for this. It's good to have a clear line. There was some questions on, what page is that? Page 213 and 214 of our report. The missing delegated authority roles, there's a couple of items there with spending ability that don't have a role in there. Under Three Waters, so on 213, so under the waters treatment, there's no name against those, and then on the next page, under compliance and monitoring, the same thing. So just a minor piece.
Cool. Through you, Chair. So we'll look at that. Obviously, if there's no name against it, there's no delegation to that thing. So one of the things, and I should have said this actually, from a formatting point of view, I think there's some stuff we can do to actually make this a better thing to look at. The idea is that this will become a schedule to the wider statutory delegations as well. So we will tidy up all of that, absolutely.
Councillor Naylor.
You stole one of my points. The other one was that there's quite a number of roles there that have got blanks beside them, and so it's just a tidying up thing once again, whereas other roles have got nil. So just putting nil beside those roles that have none, I think would just make it cleaner. But, you know, it's just cosmetics, realise that.
Cool. Through you, Chair, yes, look, I appreciate that. I did have a go at reformatting this. It caused me some pain, and I realised that probably wasn't the best use of my time, so we made the call to get it into the agenda and deal with the formatting later.
It would be fair to say that the Chief Executive has had a little bit on his plate recently as well, so we will forgive that. Councillor Wallace.
So probably moving along with that, the Tararua Alliance on page 212, where there isn't anything, right, and no, doing with the two other subjects there, are they going to be filled, or we're happy we don't need them?
Through you, Chair. So their existence in here doesn't, and a zero figure doesn't relate to them not being filled. It means that there is no delegation, no financial delegation to those roles currently. So if there was to be a change, then the financial delegations register would have to be changed. So as part of this, there's no intent to change beyond that. Right. I may get requests as the Chief Executive for delegation to go to a role, and then I would consider that based on whether it was appropriate or not and what the level was.
Thank you.
Any further questions? No, I'm grateful for the transparency to see the full detail of these, but also do appreciate that as you mentioned, we delegate to you, you delegate further down, but as an overall governance view is very, very helpful to give us assurance in that space. So thank you. Councillor Wallace. Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? So moving recommendations 1.1 to 1.3. So you will be approving 1.2, which is you're approving the amended financial delegations register for adoption?
Correct.
Perfect. And you're happy to second that? So recommendation 1.1 and 1.2, is there any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to item 11.5. This is the consolidate approved wastewater budgets for purchase of portable desludging plant. This is in the name of the Chief Strategic Advisor, Peter Wimsett. And also welcome Roger to the table.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a document that we've been preparing for some time to try to manage our wastewater issues around the sludge, particularly around the DAF units that have been put into place and are producing reasonable quantities of sludge, roughly 500 cubic metres, I think, what was it? No, 500 tonnes, that's it. Thank you, tonnes. We better get the right measure. For Paeatua, and an estimated 3 times that for Dannevirke. And that's if you operate the plant fully for a year. So we don't intend to operate the plant fully for a year in Dannevirke because you can dilute the nutrient load when the rivers are high and flowing well, but it's really a summertime seasonal issue that we want to try to get as close as we can to managing the waste stream. So what we're proposing here is to transfer the remaining budgets that are unutilised as at 30 June. This proposal is consistent with our intention around the water services delivery plan and what we want to do with desludge and dewatering the sludge. Bear in mind there's one stage that needs to follow, which is what happens with that solid waste afterwards. Currently, Carterton is trialling a composting system. Our investigation into that is that you'd need to do it at scale. It's quite potentially possible for Waiti Waters to have that scale in due course. In the meantime, we've got a problem to manage, and that's that the geo bags, we've got 3 full already. They're not dewatering anytime quickly, and a 4th one being filled at the moment, and reduced footprint space availability that will occur if we don't manage this now. So the proposal is that we have a portable plant to dewater sludge on a trailer, primarily for Dannevirke wastewater, but also will dewater other sludge from our filtering systems at our water treatment plants. So we've got that for Dannevirke and Woodville. The business case is that it's rates neutral, which is what the report says, and the debt will transfer to Waiti Waters. But more than that, it's useful to Waiti Waters. There's an opportunity for them to utilise this for a 15-year life, and it's proven.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that and the comprehensive paper. I'll open up to questions. Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Mayor Scott. On page 223, Peter, you've got wastewater Woodville wetlands, and that you're looking at an alternative discharge point. Why are we looking at an alternative discharge point? I thought we had that settled.
So, sorry, I didn't switch this off. So, through your worship, my understanding is that with the DAF unit that we're intending to put to relocate to Woodville, that means that it will be configured differently, and we will start getting waste sludge from the Woodville site. It may not answer. I may not be able to expand on that any further.
Just to be a little more specific, we had settled an area on the Mangaatua stream just off Broomfield Road, or the corner of Broomfield and Trib Road, as a wetland area, and I'm not even sure whether we've purchased that. I know agreement with the property owners had been reached, but that property has now been sold. Whether that agreement's still in place or not, I'm not sure. Could you elaborate on that, please?
Your Worship, councillors, officers, yes, we did purchase that piece of land adjacent to the wastewater treatment plant for a wetland. I'm just trying to get my head around the current situation in waters at the moment with Vito having recently departed. However, we are in the process of establishing a wastewater forum to primarily with iwi, but with other stakeholders, to get some agreement across all the wastewater treatment plants as to how we're going to proceed with those plants, given that we now have new regulation that we have to meet for these wastewater treatment plants. So this new regulation is nationwide regulation. So in terms of the exact approach for Woodville, I can't tell you right now. I don't have the full background.
A question. Thank you, Roger. I just want to double check with Councillor Johns, and thank you for raising the question. I think it'll be handy to get that information when officers are able to provide it. Is hearing the answer to that specific question fundamental to your decision making for the recommendations? Great. So are you happy for us to get that information post this meeting?
Certainly.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Corlett, then Councillor Naylor.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Just a question around the capex on the aerators. From what I believe, on the 4th of December, we had a wastewater forum meeting that went through the need for the aerators to be active on sites to meet the compliance levels for the output from those systems. I believe that they needed to install extra aerators, or were working on towards that. Again, that might not be something that can be answered here, but if we're taking out the budget, that was something that was planned for to meet compliance levels. Yeah.
I would like to welcome up Hamish to the table.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, everybody. I'll just quickly touch on the aerators. We're trialling the new ones at Paetua there. Once the DAF is installed, we'll be reassessing whether we need additional there. So that there's quite a bit of, I guess, commissioning work that'll take probably the rest of this financial year to really understand whether we need the extras. So for this financial year, I think we're in a good space, and obviously by then it'll be Waitii to take on and consider. While I'm here, just to go back to Councillor Johns' question, we are considering options for Woodville in terms of the discharge, because the larger volume that we discharge into, the cheaper it'll be for us to put in a system there. So we're considering whether it's viable to go to a different discharge point compared to the one we've got now, which is a fairly low flow sort of stream. But yeah, being the Minnow 2, we've been talking with iwi partners and Horizons around the opportunity of doing that. Very early stages as to whether that's viable or an option for us, but it may save quite a significant investment there. So we're working on it, is probably the question. That's the answer to that one.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So that alternative is you're talking of piping directly to the Manawatu. No, that's interesting.
But very early stages, as you mentioned.
Absolutely, at that options analysis phase, considering whether it's viable in any shape or form. So that's what that was referring to.
No, thank you very much, Hamish. Councillor Naylor.
I think the main point of this report is that these funds haven't been spent in the year to date, and we're looking at reallocating them. So there's no chance that they're going to be spent on the projects that are there. All these current budgets that we've got there were they all being funded by debt currently? And then is that why we can transfer the debt across to the three waters if we go ahead with this proposal?
Yes, that's correct.
No, brilliant. Thank you for that. Any further questions? Could I have someone move? Sorry, apologies, Councillor Corlett.
Thank you, Mayor Scott. And just a quick one. With the unit being mobile, is this the same desludging? Is this for ponds, or will this work for the discharge, this desludging of the wetlands that are in Ikarohuna and going into Paetua? Or is that another question for Hamish?
They work to desludge water. You have to get the water in a particular condition before you can process it. So, for instance, the drinking water processing, pre-processing the sludge that comes back from those filtration processes needs to be coagulated first before it goes through the desludging machine, but it will do it. It just has another stage. Don't know for wetlands. So that's my expertise.
Thank you. Okay, the recommendations 1.1 and 1.2 have been moved by Councillor Wallace. Could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Corlett. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. Thanks very much, guys. We now, and I'll give a second just for the officers' table to clear, but in a moment we will move to item 11.6, which is on page 227, and this is the adoption of the strategic framework for the long-term plan, 27 to 37, and this will also be very familiar to us, having recently been discussed in public workshop. So I'd like to hand over to Carter.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a fairly straightforward paper for you today, and it's about the changes made to the strategic framework following feedback from the community during the pre-engagement session. The feedback was great. The change is to the strategic pillar number 2, and the change is from reputation. It's pretty much just the title of the strategic pillar. Changing it from reputation identity to trust engagement. So the content or the text hasn't really changed. It is just a way of reflecting the feedback from the community, and it also aligns with the content of the strategic pillar. Thank you.
No, and thank you very much for that. It was certainly those words captured some people's attention and gave an impression. It gave them an impression that we were not trying to convey. So that it actually even feels better now following that feedback. So I'm very pleased to see it. Does anyone have any questions for Carter? Appears to be none. I'm happy to move the recommendation that's seconded by Deputy Mayor Wards. Is any further discussion? Great. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. So we now have an adopted strategic framework. Thank you very much for your work, everyone, officers and councillors. We now move to page 233, item 11.7, district-wide contestable fund, urgent funding requests and 26-27 funding rounds. This is in the name of the Group Manager, People, Capability and Customer and Engagement. Welcome back to the table, Sandy.
Tēnā koutou, Your Worship and councillors. So the report before you today is to give a bit of a wrap-up on the last year's funding round and also to present the new funding rounds, as well as just covering off those 2 urgent applications that we received. There is a question for you as well on whether or not you would like to carry forward the remaining funds into the new funding year. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Sandy, and appreciate the ongoing transparency for this, even with the urgent and outer cycle. Deputy Mayor Wards.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to try and clear in my head. So what we've been asked for is money out of the past year. The past year. And we're also being asked for money in the future year. Is that how I'm to read it? Because they're out of different financial years, these applications.
So the urgent funding applications have already been approved by the panel, one for the previous year and one for the current year. That's correct.
So no, thank you. It's in two parts, isn't it? We have the transparency of what has been approved, and then we also have a request where there is 1329.94 that is left over from the allocated pool. And so the question before us is whether we should be adding that to the next contestable fund round. So if there's no other questions, I might just make a comment on that. Or do you have a question? Comment. So I'll just make a quick comment on this. I don't have any issue with this personally being carried over. So this was money that we had allocated in the last long-term plan for community purposes. So that was the purpose of putting the money into there. It hasn't been spent, so therefore I think it would be appropriate, if it hasn't been spent, to be able to be used in the next funding cycle. That is my personal opinion. Councillor Wallace, comment?
Yeah, this is just a comment. Did we mention at some stage that we were going to revert this system back to the community boards? Because with the workload that's coming our way in a very short time, and I think we've established the footprint in which we want to carry this out, could we deploy in a different way? Did we actually bring that to the table, Your Worship?
So we have been in discussions about bringing some options through to the council table for your consideration. Based on recent conversations I've had with Mayor Scott, we've made the decision to engage a little bit further with the community groups and community boards, just to make sure engage their interest in the options, so that we can present that as part of the consideration to the options available to you. Did you have anything?
I might just add a tiny bit. You're right, that's absolutely my personal preference that happens. The team has done a significant amount of work with different options that will come back to our table. I was also, though, very keen to, make sure that all of those community committees were up for it and up for the process that we were looking at. Because what I didn't want to have happen, which we may have had the risk of, we would approve something at this table, it would filter through to the community boards and the community committees, and some of them would say, no, we're not comfortable with that, or we want this changed, or this would work better for us. If they're going to be running it, I want to understand from them how they want to make it work. So I just want to make sure we're doing it the right way around, so we're not burning time at this table and we can make an informed decision. But I agree with your sentiment, most certainly. Councillor Johns.
Thanks, Mayor Scott. I saw recently was an email went out stating that the first tranche under the contestable fund applications open 5th of August or something like that. So the intent is to carry on under the contestable fund, I take it, at least in tranche 1. Is that right?
I think until we can bring that report and get that resolution from council about the changes, we're just going to continue as normal. That doesn't mean that if we complete tranche 1, we can't make a decision halfway through and amend that.
So I think one thing that I have been very keen to make sure we keep as a solid option is that whatever happens with the decision making of the contestable fund, it stays contestable in nature and transparent. So the process of seeking applications for the contestable fund will likely stay the same unless the council table has a completely different view. We will then be able to move on to the decision-making process for allocation. So hopefully that gives you some comfort. Excellent. So I've spoken in favour of resolving to carry forward into the next round, and I am happy to move as such. Could I have a seconder? So that would be Councillor Johns. Is there any further discussion, or does anyone have a contrary view where they think that money shouldn't be carried over? Appears to be no different view, so I'll call the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, Sandy. We now move to page 237. This is our Lagoima report in the name of the Manager of Democracy Services, Ellie Dunn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take the report as read. I'll just highlight that we've continued to have a low number of requests this month, as we did last month, which helps to reduce our workload. And note that for the 2025-2026 financial year, as well as for the 2025 calendar year, we have had a 100% compliance rate for answering requests within the statutory timeframe.
Fantastic. And again, always very, very grateful for the work and the transparency of having these available to us on the council website, but also to members of the public. So it's very, very helpful for me personally, but I know others comment on it. Are there any questions for Ali? Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Scott. Does zero mean that day, does it?
Sorry, whereabouts are you referring to?
On the days, it's got zero. So
That means it took us 0 working days to complete. It means they got the answer the same day.
Same day.
yeah, so zero is same day. Thanks very much.
We use the timeframes that are set by the Office of the Ombudsman for calculating working days.
Perfect. Thank you, Ali. Councillor Naylor.
Just one minor comment, if I may.
We'll just make sure there's no questions before we move into comments. Any further questions? Comments?
Yeah, under multiple requests for individual, we're getting the same report all the time, each thing, which is fine, but do we need to have it in there unless it becomes an issue again? Or perhaps we could just have that reduced to there's been no increase in the reports from multiple requests? I don't know. Just a comment.
We do have had one of our multiple requesters has started making requests again.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the percentages you won't see move much because in the meantime we get requests for non-multiple people.
Mm.
So, but yeah, we do.
Yeah.
It's something that's tracked automatically in our system. So.
Right.
I understand the question. However, I'm quite keen personally for it to stay because it has become it has been an issue, and it allows us to just keep an eye on whether that is, and it's also quite controversial. If it does move into charging for the responses, that becomes quite controversial. So I think it's important that we keep our eye on it. I understand the sentiment though. Any further questions? Could I have someone move? Councillor Naylor, seconded by Councillor Wallace. No further discussion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. We now move to between pages 245 and 249. There are some correspondence to ministerial letters, and that's included in there, a letter from me through to Rinatawa. Are there any questions on the letters? The ministerial letters are forwarded as a rule out to councillors as they come in. Right, they're noted. We don't need a resolution. One on there, that's fine. Sure.
Letter from you to Woodville Art and History. Thank you for going to the effort of doing that, and it was well written, and certainly the organisation was worthy of such a letter. But thank you for doing so.
No, it was an absolute pleasure to write, and it was a fantastic occasion, so I wanted to formally acknowledge that. Could I please have someone move that we receive the correspondence, please? Councillor Corlett, seconded by Councillor Johns. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to item 13, lucky 13, page 251. This is a portfolio report from Councillor Amboy. Councillor Amboy, would you like to speak to your report?
Thank you, Mayor Scott. Just briefly, I'll take the report as read, but at the start of the month, myself, Mayor Scott, Corin, and CR Chris had the opportunity to go to Zone 3, which is a local government meeting in Napier, and it was a jam-packed 1.5 to 2 day event, and yeah, we learnt a lot. We got to speak to a lot of MPs and ministers. A lot of them were on Zoom, but it was very good anyway. And Mayor Scott asked some really good questions throughout the whole thing. So yeah, we got the opportunity to, I guess, put the council's name out there. But if there's anything that anyone else that anyone else who attended would like to speak on, yeah, happy for you to add on. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Amboy, and I just want to acknowledge the time that you've put in to giving a really good, fulsome report for the council table, along with the photos, and my favourite photo included in there that was put on display. But it was a very, very good report, Councillor Amboy. Is there any questions for Councillor Amboy? No. That is fantastic. Yes, Councillor Willis.
I see in one of those pictures there, one person's not there anymore.
Thank you for that. That is noted.
Thank you.
And sadly, he gave a fantastic speech on his problems with amalgamation, so that was quite disappointing. He was quite keen to campaign against it. But I won't make comment on anything else. There is a recommendation there. Have I done the vote? No. Could I have someone move, which I'm sure will be Councillor Amboy, move her report? Could I have someone second Councillor Amboy's report? Councillor Kennedy. Any further discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thanks again, Councillor Amboy. Really appreciate that. We now move to item 14, page 255, which is the mayoral update for the month. I will take that as read. I just want to add slightly before I jump into the mayoral update. Just was a timely matter that came across my desk last night and this morning. Some councillors may have seen a very interesting news article on the Post on RNZ and on radio that talks about the Tararua district consuming the most drinking water in the country. I certainly have had some feedback and some comments about that. It would be fair to say that we believe that the information in that article had been misinterpreted. So there has been work with the journalist and the organisation involved, and I have been notified that there has been a clarification and an update to that story. So I want to thank our communications team for following that up quite quickly, but it did give an impression of something that was not the case. Yes, so I just wanted to flag that because some may have seen it. My report as written is mostly focused on reform. We did have Councillor Wallace and I had the privilege of attending the 25-year Gold Star Award for Michael Smythe from the Ormondville Volunteer Fire Brigade. I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor Wallace, who did a fantastic job as MC, so he was doing double duty at this awards. Councillor Wallace, and well done. We also did have schools attending both of our chambers throughout the month. One of them was in conjunction with Te Kura, with Councillor Tawaka, which was fantastic, and we also had students come from Tararua College with Councillor Amboy and Councillor Tawaka, where we ran a mock council meeting, so that was great fun. I also had the privilege of visiting Shirley Chapman-Taylor to acknowledge her 100th birthday, so that was brilliant, and we had our citizenship ceremony in Pahiatua recently, which was a great occasion, and was very grateful to a senior representative, the most senior non-commissioned officer of the 1st Battalion, for also being in attendance. And that is my update. Is there any questions? Yes, we found it. And I did do it this time. I haven't done it for every now and again. I miss it. So I'm happy to move my report if there's no questions. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Wallace, thank you very much. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Councillors, that concludes our public portion of the meeting. So what I would like us to now do is have a councillor move us into public excluded, please. Councillor Wallace, seconded by Councillor Johns. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Motion is carried. We are now in public excluded. Just give one moment. Thank you all very much. That concludes our council meeting for the month. Appreciate again officers' time in preparing these reports and councillors' time today, and for all the work that you are doing to help inform your decision making. So that concludes our meeting. Thank you. And we will just have the Deputy Mayor close with a karakia.
Thanks, Your Worship. I won't submit you to more singing, but let us bring this meeting to a close. Kia tau mai te manaki, o te wahi nāro, mai ronga, mai raro, mai roto, mai wahu, hui e, taiki e. Lay upon me the care of the universal forces from above, from below, from the inner self to the outer self. Let it be affirmed. Yes, it is affirmed. Amen.
Thank you.